Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Arsenal lose 1-0 to Porto in their first leg tie in the Champions League. And unfortunately, they're going to have to take their medicine on this. Having scored so many goals in the Premier League in recent weeks, they misfired and ultimately, I think you've got to say, boring Arsenal. Look, I don't know what it is. I think Arsenal are capable of this. They're capable of winning 4 or 5-0 as well. It's a cracking goal from Porto to win it in stoppage time. But the same guy who scores that goal missed 2 sitters in the first half. Incredibly, I can't work the maths out on this, but Arsenal had no shots on target, but had 10 corners. How does that work? How do you have 10 corners and no shots on target? Surely a corner, at least 5 of those would come from shots on target where the keeper tips it out. So that's an amazing stat, but it's a damning stat for Arsenal as well. Personally, I think what they've gone, they can turn it around in the second half, in the second leg. Of course they could. Interestingly, we were talking about the away goals rule, and I think that it's a 50-50 thing, is it? Is the Champions League better with away goals or worse? And I think that if away goals were there, Arsenal would be more attacking in the away leg. And what they've actually done here, and we've seen a few teams do it, if you draw in the away leg, it becomes redundant. It doesn't mean anything because it becomes a one-legged shootout and you're at home. And I think Arsenal have gone into this game, and I think Arteta's gone into this game, and they've basically said, let's not do anything stupid. We don't need to open the game up. Let's just keep hold of the ball. Let's be careful with the ball. If we nick a goal, take it back to the Emirates, we're comfortable. But all we got to do is not lose, really. Let's not be too expansive. Let's not open ourselves too much. It's an away ground. And they've clearly gone and done that. And that's absolutely fine until you lose 1-0 and then you put more pressure on yourself in the second leg. I'd still say Arsenal will turn it around. I bloody want them to turn it around. As a Man United fan, I need English clubs to do well in the Champions League, in the Conference League, in the Europa League, so that 5th place comes to the Champions League spot, comes to 5th place to England. But look, Arsenal should not be losing to Porto. I mean, maybe they can, well, they have, but I mean, over 2 legs, they shouldn't be losing. And you've got to look at why. The goal is a worldie. You could say maybe they could close him down better. I initially looked at it and went, how's David Raya been beat from there? But the curl on it, and David Raya's at full stretch. It's a proper FIFA goal that he used to score with the finesse finish. It's a brilliant goal. But Arsenal need to be more adventurous. I think that in the final third, they were sloppy. They never really exerted their superior player quality onto Porto. And they allowed the game to be played at a sort of equal level. And when you play like that, the home team scores a goal, you lose 1-0. Arsenal should have been more on the front foot. Arsenal should have been rolling in and going, we're in a Premier League title race, we're a better team, and we're going to take the game to you. And they didn't. They were happy to play this sort of reserved, chuckle vision, to me, to you football. And at the end of the game, they've ended up losing it 1-0. And they've given themselves a bigger task now at the Emirates. Now, look, 0-0, they'd have to win anyway. 1-0, obviously they've got to win or they're going out. And I think they will go through. But I don't know. Sir Alex used to do it a little bit in the latter years in the Champions League. Away from home, you keep it tight. You make sure you don't get beat. And then at home, you use the home crowd and you get at them. And Arsenal will do that. And I'm pretty sure we will see Arsenal in the quarterfinals. But there is a bit of naivety there. And look, I've got to say as well, from an Arsenal point of view, I was saying it in the watch-along, very boring game. Arsenal didn't up the tempo. They never really got going. They were very lacklustre. It was confusing at times. But I think that just came from the fact that they never really had any intensity or intent in their game. And when you look at Arsenal, I still think that what Arteta's done in relation to the title race is fantastic because they are still, I believe, missing 2 proper fullbacks. I think Ben White does a good job, but I don't think that they're not fullbacks for me, either of them. I still think next to Declan Rice, you need something more box-to-box. And Havertz, I know he's scored a few goals and Arsenal fans are warming to him, but I don't like Havertz and Odegaard. I've never liked it. I don't think the balance is right. It's fine when you're beating the Burnleys and etc. But I think in the bigger games where it's more technical, you need a proper box-to-box player. Declan Rice sits. Odegaard's your 10, you need a number 8, and Havertz isn't that. And obviously, they haven't got a striker. You can mix it. You can mix and match as much as you like with Martinelli and Trossard, but they haven't got a striker. So, look, Arsenal to me are not. What I'm trying to say is Arsenal are not the finished product, and therefore I think there has to be some leniency because they're doing so well in the Premier League. I'd said before the game that I think Arsenal have got every right to think they could go to the semi-finals or even the final because beyond Real Madrid and Man City, who really is the next contender, and it could be Arsenal. But on their performance today, they've got to approach European football better, because that was lacklustre. It was dull. It was boring. It was pragmatic. And I don't think that suits Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal... I saw them do it a couple of times last season. They did it at the Etihad, didn't they? I don't think it suits Arsenal when they try and game manage a game, in the sense that let's just keep it tight. If it's a draw, it's fine. I don't think that's what Arsenal are all about. I think Arsenal are about exuberance, intensity, creativity, and that's what they didn't do today. They played a two-legged game, basically, and if they win at the Emirates, it's fine and you forget about this. But if they don't, then you'd have to look at this and go, I think on the flight back, there'll be a lot of regret from Arteta. He'll look at that game and go, yeah, it didn't work. We tried to game manage it. We tried from minute one to just make sure we came out with a tight draw or something like that, or maybe nick it. And actually, we'll never know what would have happened if we'd opened up the game and gone for it a little bit. And, you know, you fly out to Porto, you play your best players. What's the cost of getting them just to go a little bit more on the front foot? You know, all right, Porto might catch you a couple of times and you lose 1-0, 2-0, but you've lost 1-0 anyway. So, yeah, I think it's a disappointing result for Arsenal, but not one that's going to be catastrophic. I think it does pose the question. I'd be very interested to see what you think in the comments about, you know, how far can Arsenal go in this tournament? I think they'll get through this, but it depends who they get in the quarterfinal. And if they do play away again in Europe, don't play again like that. Also, the second question would be, do you think that the Champions League is as entertaining with no away goals in it? As I said, 0-0 going into stoppage time, that would be a bad result for Arsenal when away goals were going on, because you always try and get a goal away from home. It's a good result with no away goals because they don't need to worry about Porto scoring and getting a score draw in the away leg. So, I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that, but it was a very dull game, and it does, with no away goals, it makes the away team in the first leg be defensive and keep it tight. And I don't know how that's good for football. I don't know. Get your comments in. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. As for, we've seen every team in the Champions League now, because last week we saw a load of teams as well. I'm still very much of the opinion that it's Real Madrid or Man City. I don't really see anybody that's going to push them. Arsenal can improve. Inter Milan are interesting. But I think the rest of them are just very... I mean, Bayern Munich are terrible. You know, look at PSV and Dortmund last night. These are not teams that are going to... I actually would say that this Champions League is a bit disappointing. Beyond Man City and Real Madrid and maybe Arsenal and Inter. I don't, you know, in previous years, you've got 6 or 7 teams that you think, ooh, could be good. But I guess we'll have to see. Get your comments in below. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash your like on the video. What were your thoughts on the key issues? I'll speak to you on the next one.